Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. Obviously, we've got Season 4 coming up here in just a little bit, and we already know there's going to be a lot changing with the brand new seasonal update. However, a few days back, we also got some pretty surprising and pretty interesting news regarding the next Warzone map, and although we won't be getting it for at least a little bit, it looks to be the first entirely new map that isn't necessarily taking place on Verdansk. Instead, this would be a World War II themed map that looks to pretty much change everything. So as we break down the impact that this new map is going to have on Warzone, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it, would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new here or if you haven't already subscribed, I am always covering everything going on in COD, so if you want to stay up to date with the latest news, updates, tips, and pretty much everything else in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. Also, if you don't already follow me over on Twitter, most news are like big events that go down regarding COD. I'm usually talking about over there as well, so feel free to drop me a follow over there if you're interested. Anyway, as we talked about a bit last week, VGC, or the Video Games Chronicle, came out with a brand new report saying that COD 2021 is not going to have a showing at E3 2021, and instead we'll see a later reveal as Sledgehammer and Activision plan to integrate the next COD game into Warzone in a much earlier and a much smoother way than what we saw with Black Ops Cold War. Obviously, the whole Warzone and Cold War integration was a big step up for COD in general. It's something we certainly had never seen before, and in many ways, you could tell it was their first time trying to do something on that scale. For one, the integration didn't even happen right as Cold War was released. It was about a month delayed, and it went live with the first seasonal drop for content and whatnot, so the timing was already not the best for the integration. Then, as we know, upon being integrated, the Cold War content was an absolute mess in Warzone. The weapons were catastrophically broken. Some were ridiculously overpowered, like the DMR and the AUG and the FFAR. The attachments on basically every single Cold War weapon were completely backwards. None of them did what they were supposed to do. It took months to get them finally sorted out. It seemed like a whole big trial and error thing when it comes to the whole integration. And of course, with the integration, we got no new map. We stayed on Verdansk up until the previous Season 3 update when we shifted to Verdansk 84, which is, I guess, new in concept, but the overall layout and the majority of the map is reskinned to fit the time period, with a handful of physical changes being placed in just various areas. But feel-wise, Verdansk OG and Verdansk 84 are relatively the same. However, the same cannot be said for what appears to be the next Warzone map. So, the VGC article says that Call of Duty Vanguard, which is currently the rumored title for COD 2021, is currently on track to release on current and last-gen consoles, and of course PC as well, in November. So, sort of a standard COD release, probably a good thing considering Battlefield is dropping in late October. Gives it some time to settle in. And while Vanguard as a whole is going to have all the normal Call of Duty title stuff, multiplayer, campaign, and apparently even zombies, the Warzone update for it is going to be the biggest that we've ever seen, as Sledgehammer has apparently had a lot more time to sort of refine and prepare for the Warzone integration, as we're going to be heading to a World War II setting with a brand new map based in the Pacific Theater. This map is said to be significantly larger than the current model of Verdansk, and best of all, in my opinion, it'll be coming right alongside the launch of the game instead of 1, 2, 3, 4+ months later. Now, VGC also says there's going to be new vehicles to fit the time frame, and it'll be powered by the Modern Warfare engine, which overall means the game is going to feel the same as Warzone does now in terms of like movement and gunplay and all that stuff. Great news. Again, personally, I think the Modern Warfare engine is the best feeling engine we have in COD right now, so personally, I'm definitely happy to hear that. And of course, we've talked about most of this before, and while those details are great in terms of what they tell us, it's exciting to hear, they're not super specific. Like, we definitely are able to see how this is going to drastically change things for Warzone in a bunch of different ways, but the gritty details here, the fine-tuned details, we don't obviously have much of that as of now. However, we know a lot's going to be changing here. The first major change I see this next Warzone map bringing is obviously the environment as a whole. As obvious as it sounds, actually having an entirely new map is going to be a huge shift for Warzone, considering it'll be the first time since, I guess, technically Rebirth Island, that we're in an unfamiliar area and we're going to have to learn all the new locations, the new buildings and the other new structures, new rotations, new power positions, hot drops, the whole 9 yards. With Verdansk 84, yeah, sure, we got some new locations, but Superstore is still a hotspot, Hangars is as well, Hospital is, so on and so forth. And with the layout, personally, I still rotate in pretty much all the same ways as I did before. I try to avoid downtown at all costs. Finishing up, above the dam or what's now Summit, not ideal whatsoever. Like, I'm avoiding the same places as before. I'm rotating through the same places as before. the gameplay itself doesn't feel all that different. But a new Pacific Theater based map would require everyone to learn a whole new area, which I think would be a huge step in the right direction, and it would really make Warzone feel fresh again. So that's one thing that would seriously change with this next map. Now, VGC also mentions that it's going to be significantly larger than the current Verdansk model, which means locations would be more spread out from one another, I would assume. There'd be a lot more land to traverse. Basically, that means if the game kept its current player count and pacing, the map would play a whole lot slower. And even now in Verdansk, there's matches that die off instantly. Zone 2, there's like 40 or 50 people left in quads, and you're stuck wandering around for 10 minutes looking for action. In solos, it's like 30 people left in the start of Zone 2. Like, there are games that are, sort of a snooze fest, you could say. But as we know, Warzone has had internal tests of various player counts, and Activision has also said they want to see the player count expand upwards of 200, and they also want to introduce larger squad counts as well in the future. Fives, for instance, would be something we could see if that player count was up to 200. And of course, we had the BR Quads 200 LTM a while back, which I loved. I'm bummed we've only ever seen it one time. So, with a new map that's larger in size, I definitely think we're going to see some adjustments to the player count and maybe even how the zones shift, if they're moving faster or more frequently than what we have now to sort of accommodate that new size and new scale of the map. Then something else VGC mentions is that there's going to be new vehicles specifically meant for the World War II map, so we could see new land and maybe even some new air vehicles added in. And I could definitely see tanks being included in that. That's something we haven't had in Warzone yet, but going off of my experience with tanks in Modern Warfare multiplayer in like Ground War, I'm really glad we haven't had tanks in Warzone. Like, they're definitely not very fun to run into in multiplayer, that's for sure. But if done correctly in a way where they're actually balanced and not too overpowered, they could be a pretty pivotal part in gameplay. They're basically like moving cover in a sense, something that's a lot easier to use than, say, an ATV or even an SUV like what we have now. We can also assume the map's architecture would be vastly different from what we have now. Structures would be scaled differently, buildings would as well. We probably wouldn't have super congested areas like downtown. Like, this new map, I feel like is going to completely make Warzone feel like a new game, but at the same time, it's going to still feel like Warzone with the gunplay and how frequently you're running into action and whatnot. This to me is all very exciting news, and honestly, I don't think we're all that far away from seeing new information officially drop about this next map, and of course, whenever that stuff does surface, you already know I'm going to be talking about it here on the channel. One last thing I wanted to mention, of course, is the weaponry. Obviously, with the new COD, we're going to have a bunch of new weapons added in. We've already had a World War II COD, so as far as the arsenal goes, I feel like we can sort of expect, certain things to be included in that, but if we're in World War II, I'm really curious to see if we're going to keep all the Cold War weapons, all the, 2021 and modern day weapons. It'd be interesting to see how they do that, if they're trying to make it canon or if they're just like, hey, yeah, we sold bundles for these, we're not going to take them away. You grind it out hours upon hours to get Damascus or Dark Matter Ultra, or unfortunately Dark Ether, which still isn't a thing. We're not going to take those away. That's something I'd be, curious to see how that's going to work. I'm sure we'll find out in due time, but that's something to keep in mind for now. I feel like it could be interesting to see how they approach that. But yeah, there you have it. With all of that being said, that is how the next Warzone map, this Pacific Theater map, is going to completely change Warzone. Bigger scale, completely different environment. I think it's, pretty good news so far. I'm excited to learn more about it in the future. But that is going to wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here or if you haven't already subscribed, I am always covering everything going on in COD. News, intel, updates, it's all right here. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know whenever I upload a new video. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code WhosImmortal for a discount on all Scuff, G Fuel, Gamer Advantage, and Control Freak products. The links for all those can be found down in the description below. But once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.